Owen, we got to take you to Austin, man.
I know, but one of these days.
One of these days. I'm glad you get to join us, though. You ready for this?
Yeah, glad to be here.
Hello and welcome to Talk Heathen! Today's January 31st, 2021. It is Season 5, Episode 5. I'm Eric Murphy, and with me today is Owen, better known as Telltale. How's it going, man?
Going well. I appreciate you having me on. This is the first time I've been on the show, so I am glad to be here.
When I found out that you hadn't been on the show before, it shocked me. And so I'm super, super glad to have you on. But for people who don't know who you are, who the hell are you?
I'm Telltale. I have a channel called Telltale. I have a podcast called Telltale Podcast. I'm not very creative with my naming. But generally on the main channel, I talk about cults and, mind control and propaganda, logical fallacies, things like that. And on the podcast, I do all that same stuff, except I apply it to politics. So I try to stay away from politics mostly on the main channel. I reserve it for the podcast. So, yeah, that's who I am.
Well, rock on, man. I have been following you for years, and I think that what you do and the content that you put out is important, and the view that you have of things and your perspective is super welcome. So for people who are watching, dude, absolutely, man. So anybody who's watching, follow Telltale. It's absolutely worth the watch, and worth the binge now. So
right.
Let's see. Before we dive into calls, I have a couple of regular announcements. There's going to be an episode of The Nonprofits at 3. So it is 1 o'clock Central right now, and at 3 p.m. Central, The Nonprofits will be doing its episode. So make sure you hop over and see their show. Talk Heathen is a product of the Atheist community of Austin. It's a 501c3 nonprofit, and it goes because of your support. So if you like what I do and you'd like to support us, there are a couple of ways that you can do that. The super chats aren't really happening anymore. Instead, there's a donate button above the live chat. If you want to donate that way, 100% of that donation goes to the atheist community of Austin. If you want to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen to me. We're 2/3 of the way through the episode. We thank our top 5 patrons, and I will refresh it beforehand. So if you want to hear your name read today, go to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. With that said, and also if we have time, we're going to hop over to Discord after the show. So let's see where we go from there. Oh, and you ready for the first call?
I'm so ready. Let's do it.
All right. We do have room for other calls. So if you want to call in, now's the time. If you're a believer, if you want us to, or if you believe in a conspiracy and you want us to talk about it or tell us what you believe and why, you can call 512-991-9242 or go to tiny.cc/callth. We have a couple of open lines, so call in. All right. The first person we're going to talk to today is Stan in Nevada. Stan, you're live with Eric and Telltale. How are you doing?
There.
Hey.
Hi, Eric. Owen. I didn't think I was going to be on so quick. How are you guys?
Doing well. You were first in line, man. What did you want to talk about?
I like it. Well, I wanted to ask Owen specifically, but of course, I love the show, so your insight would be great as well. But just kind of wanted to know at what point do we kind of blanket Christianity as a cult? Because I think that if left to their own devices, or worse, anybody's capable of becoming like a David Koresh or something.
Sure. That's actually a really interesting question. I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I feel like I want to elaborate on it in more detail at some point on my channel. But I feel that categories and groups are different from each other. If you're in a category, it can't be a cult by definition. If you're in a group, it can be a cult. So, for example, Christianity is a category under which you have Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and, all of these other groups. Islam is a category under which you have Sufi and, all of these other types, all of these other groups of Islam. So as far as Christianity as a whole being a cult, I feel that you have to get a little bit more specific to name something a cult than just a category like that.
Okay. Cool.
I got to agree. I've been spending way too much time on TikTok lately, and there's this whole subcategory of liberal Christians who just have nothing in common with the kind of Christian that I was. And seeing that they just could not be more different in their views on the world, in the way that they're approaching how to treat each other and how to raise their children, and what issues are important to them. That it would cover way too much. So I agree with Owen. But
okay.
Do you have anything else you wanted to ask or talk about?
I had a little bit different of an experience because I went from Catholic to a non-denominational, and Catholic I believe is a little bit further on the bite model. I believe Owen explained that. I don't know. I don't want to quote you, but I felt though when I went to some of the like non-denominational churches that the extremism didn't necessarily go away. So, but that's that.
Yeah, they do hold a lot of things in common. Like throughout being a category, a lot of groups have a lot of commonalities with each other, and there are some ideologies that basically guide certain groups. For example, evangelicalism started in the 1970s in Texas. Evangelicalism isn't a cult, but it's basically an outline for how to create one. And every group that follows that outline inevitably becomes a cult. You know what I mean? It's almost like, we've got categories, we've got ideologies, and then when you get down to the very specific groups, then we have cults that kind of come out of those ideologies. That's my opinion.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for calling in. Take care. Bye.
All right. Awesome.
There's some crossover between our shows. I like it, man.
Yeah. Super interesting question. I really liked that.
Yeah. All right. Let's just dive right into the next call. We've got a couple of people on the line, but I really want to see a little more variety. So now's the time to call in. I know that it's people are spoiled because we don't cap out at 6 lines. But if you want to call us and tell us what you believe and why, 512-991-9242, or go to tiny.cc/callth. Blah. In the meantime, let's talk to David in California. David, you're live with Eric and Morgan. Eric and Owen. Sorry, Owen.
Oh, you're good.
Hey,
David?
How are you guys doing?
Hey, we're doing well. What did you want to talk about today?
So I guess I have a question for you guys. I called a couple of weeks ago and talked with V and Katie Montgomery, and my question was about determinism, and I guess I was wondering your thoughts on it, because I feel like there is different levels of cognition where we can kind of, like, there are things that are, I guess determined because of the way that our brain works. But I feel like maybe we can stop that by making a choice to guide the path that is determined, if you know what I mean. I can break it down more if you'd like,
So let's make sure that the audience is following along with us. So we're talking about free will at this point, right?
Yes.
We're talking about whether or not somebody has the free will to make decisions moving forward. And so there's the idea that we're meat robots. We have no choice, and that our brains are just reacting to and moving through the world. And there's this libertarian free will idea that a lot of people have, that we are conscious actors that are making decisions, and that's kind of shaping the direction of things. And so when you say that there's some, but we can still make some choices, where are you drawing that line?
Okay, so do you know, like, about neuroscience and how when you have a decision you're going to supposedly make, like, your brain fires in different ways, and like it your brain works in associations. Like they have a saying, like what fires together wires together. And so when you make a decision, there's other parts of your brain that are associated with that like light up with more potential than other places. And so that like draws a line in your brain, like the wiring to, that's probably where you're going to make that next decision. But I brought up the example last time. I find myself getting mad over small things, but while I'm getting mad, I recognize that, that's probably just my brain going in that, deterministic arc. But I stop myself and I say, no, I want to try and reassociate it with other things to help rewire my brain to go associate with a more productive path than getting angry, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Did you have the choice to do that?
I mean, I feel like I do because
But if you hadn't been exposed to those ideas and, the idea of rewiring your brain, would you have made the choice to do that?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I don't know.
Let me throw something at you and kind of think about it from this perspective. When you roll dice, the chances that you're going to roll all sixes 10,000 times in a row is low, right? It's a predictability and a probability type of situation. With brains, it doesn't mean that you don't have the free choice to make a decision necessarily with the determinism thing. It means that when people are placed in specific situations, there will be predictable outcomes, right? When we place 10,000 people in a situation where, they're standing on a street corner and they have a choice to go left or they have the choice to go right, we can determine based on their life experiences and if every variable is accounted for, we can figure out where they would go. We can figure out which direction they would go. And it's about predictability and probability, not necessarily saying you don't have the free choice for this to happen or for this to play out this way. It's just statistically speaking, we know that we can apply probability statistics to this situation, right? Am I making sense? Does that add up, Eric?
Yeah, no.
It does, and it takes me right to a place that I wind up going all of the time, and so now I kind of want to pick both of your brains. So it sounds like we're talking about randomness and the odds of something happening given the random nature of certain events. Would you call randomness free will? Does that create space for any kind of free will?
I wouldn't say I'm talking about randomness. I'm actually saying that I am recognizing that something it has been going this way in the past. I recognize that probabilistically people are going to go right or left. Which one are they probably going to do more? And I say, well, I can understand that that's where it's going to go, but I want to choose that I want to go left because I feel like that's a better path, with me going to try and not be angry versus having something anger me.
Sure.
I don't know.
It's a hard question that people have been deliberating over for a very long time. And, I've struggled with that myself in the past, trying to figure out where the free will line is. But ultimately, I've always said free will is a religious concept rather than a scientific concept. So, we have the option of making choices, but there's a beeping in the background. Apologize. My coffee maker telling me to get it before it goes cold. We have the option of making free choices, but from a scientific perspective, we can look at a set of data and see that people generally in this situation, with all of these variables accounted for, they will make this decision instead of that decision. I think the I think the whole bit with free will is only important for statistics and data, really, more than, the way you live your life. I don't think it really applies on that level as well.
But it does in as much as, so, and I know a lot of people might be wondering, why are you guys talking about free will so much? Well, because I don't know, David, based off of what you were talking, about in your example, it sounded like you were saying that it helps you cope sometimes, right? That you have free will. And so we take that abstract concept of free will, and now we're applying it. When we apply it, we're talking about, how responsible am I for myself? Should I feel guilty and shameful about the things that I've done or the things that I will do? And if everything is predetermined, right? If everything is just dominoes lined up to knock each other down, then is there any point in trying to better yourself? Right. And those are all the kinds of things that we find ourselves wrapped up in. And ultimately, I gotta tell you, if is that where you were kind of going, or what you were kind of associating with the conversation?
I mean, I guess maybe kind of. I feel like I feel like I want there to be free will because I want to be able to improve myself. Like I Sure. Definitely am always trying to improve myself and, look at things differently and question my beliefs and, try to come to as much, truth as possible. So
well,
I'd like to be able to think that I could control that, but maybe not.
but if that's the case, I don't want, what I suggest is that you don't value it any lower if that's not the case, because we find ourselves at a point where, okay, we don't know if there's free will, right? So you're trying to better yourself already, which means whether or not you had that free will, that is what you're doing. And so if you didn't have free will, it's not like you wouldn't be doing what you're doing already. You're just, yeah. The best advice I can give with that in mind is expose yourself to as many new ideas as you can, and do your best to evaluate those things, to have a broader understanding of the world around you, because the more you do that, the more context you're going to have, so that whether or not you have free will, you can make those better informed decisions.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do have one more question for you regarding the whole free will thing. Can you raise your left hand for me? Did you raise your left hand? Was that a free choice that you made? Did you have the option to not raise your left hand did you have the choice to refuse me?
I could have, yes.
If we look at the statistics and the data shows that you were likely to raise your left hand because you were asked to, and a number of other factors, but you didn't have to. Yeah. That was an option that you chose. Yeah. So the data shows free will doesn't actually exist, but in practice, we have choices to make. We do live our lives as though free will does exist, but the data reflects that once the variables are accounted for, ultimately, people's lives are very predictable and people's decisions are very predictable, right?
Yeah, I guess that's how mentalism comes about and stuff like that.
Well,
That's true.
Although, not to deter you from trying the latter, if you did fully accept that we don't have free will, there's a beautiful nihilism. There's an amazing absurdism to be found on the other side of it that is also comforting. And I'm speaking from the other side of it. So it may seem scary to jump in that pool, but if that's where you're looking, don't worry. Give it a shot.
Oh, I'm not scared. I just enjoy, thinking about these things. I feel like I am probably in the same camp as you, but I like thinking about it.
Oh, rock on. Well, we appreciate your call.
I appreciate what you guys do. Like, I love you. All of you, and everything that you guys do. So thank you very much.
Appreciate that. Yeah,
appreciate
thanks
it
for watching.
Take care, man. All right. We got some interesting. Okay, so this is the kind of path we're taking today. It's interesting the callers and the co-hosts and kind of where people come from, and so I think that's interesting. What you do on your channel and how that's kind of guiding the conversations that we're having today.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So again, we are low on callers, guys. We're going to move over and talk to Chad, but before we do, 512-991-9242. You don't want to see us vamp. So call in, tell us what you believe and why. Chad, you're talking to Eric and Owen. What would you like to talk about?
Hi, Eric.
Chad.
Hi, Owen.
Hey.
So I was calling in because I wanted to discuss some thoughts with you. A friend of mine is a pastor. I'm an atheist.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And he and I have been working on a way to, one day instead of a sermon, he and I having a conversation in front of his congregation about the cliches Christians tell themselves about non-believers.
Ooh, I remember those. What are some of your favorites?
So to be honest, I thought "Look at the Trees" was a straw man that atheists like to use about Christians, but then someone told me to look at the thunderstorm.
Yep. I actually remember looking at an atheist and genuinely trying to find physical tells to just see, like, scaly skin, or see if
that's funny.
If they smell like sulfur or something like that. Like, I really thought that there was some physical.
If flies land on them, then they're an atheist, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I'm sorry. Go ahead with your story.
Well, yeah. So I was just looking for advice on how to be as productive, non-confrontational with this conversation in a way that we can maybe show some believers that outside their bubble, there's a whole other world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you asking for maybe primers or help in opening up those conversations? How can we help?
Yeah, I guess so. Cause we were because he and I have been talking about this ahead of time, of course, and we haven't figured out a date yet. But so some of the things I was looking at was, so this idea that somehow God is self-evident. Well, if God was self-evident, we wouldn't be having the conversation to begin with. This idea that I just want to sin but I don't want to just go in there and be like, you're all wrong.
No, it's
I don't think that would be
it's really difficult
way to. Yeah,
I absolutely agreed. In finding believers to talk to and having those conversations, it can be really, really tough. And finding avenues to do that is rough. A couple of places that I would suggest, go on Reddit. There are a lot of different places where you can talk to Christians. Just be careful because there's some toxicity there. But it's definitely worth hopping in. You can also hop onto our Discord. If you haven't been to the ACA Discord, it's worth checking out. Tons of people, both believers and non-believers, talking to each other and having a good time and creating community. So you're absolutely welcome to check out our Discord. But finding people physically nearby, even without COVID, is tough. You can't force somebody to have that conversation with you. And it's so rare that people do want to have that conversation that getting good at it is difficult. It's really difficult. My best suggestion is to utilize the internet, because that's where you're going to find people who are wanting to put themselves out there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and on Facebook right now, I'm in a conversation with someone who is trying to convince me the election was fraudulent and stolen, and I'm trying to use some of these methods. I'm trying to use some of the same methods in that conversation because I think it's good practice.
Well, if people are watching and they believe that the United States election was a fraud, call in, tell us what you believe and why, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Owen, would you be up for that conversation?
Oh
today?
yeah. Oh my God. I talk about this all the time on my
Yeah?
podcast. There are some
Ooh.
real nutters out there.
All right. If you believe in QAnon, or if you believe that the
Yeah.
election was fraud, call 512-991-9242. We want to talk to you. Hey, Chad, best of luck to you,
Yes.
man.
Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah, it can be tough, and you don't want to push people into conversations they don't want to have. So finding those forums where they make themselves available is going to be the best.
Okay. All right. Can I
right.
just say to Owen, I'm a big fan of you as well, Eric.
That's awesome. I appreciate
Owen,
that.
I grew up Seventh-day Adventist, and I really appreciated your video on Seventh-day Adventist.
No way. That's awesome. I really need to do another video on them. I haven't done one in a long time, but I'm so glad that, that helped in some way. Appreciate that.
Good.
Yeah, I knew growing up Seventh-day Adventist that people were always back and forth on whether or not we were a cult or not. And you kind of helped clear some of that up, even after I'm no longer a believer.
Definitely. I'm also really interested in the history behind it, because they have a lot of links to Jehovah's Witnesses. They kind of sprung out of the same the same origins, the same church. They have a lot of similar beliefs and stuff. So really fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Glad you found your way out, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad I did as well. And Talk Heathen, Atheist Experience, Vice Rhino, Telltale, they were all a part of that journey for me, actually, just within the last year. So
That's awesome. I will tell Vice Rhino you said that. I was actually talking to him earlier. So
Yeah, you picked a good group.
yeah.
Happy to hear it. All right. Chad, thank you for calling us. Take care, buddy.
Yep, thank you.
That was nice.
That
All
was
right.
Pretty cool.
I want to dive into the next call. We've got our first theist caller for the day. Let's talk to Noah in Canada. Noah, you're live with Eric and Owen. What would you like to talk about?
Hi.
Hi.
I think there was a mix-up. First of all, my name's not Noah, it's Douglas. Sorry about that. Anyway, I'd like to ask you a question. If you're atheist, what do you think created the world?
Well, I can take this if you don't mind, Eric.
We can take turns, buddy. You go first.
Okay. I feel that the term "I don't know" is underrated. I think that we should get real comfortable with that. I think we have a real clear idea of what happened. But even if we didn't, that's irrelevant. I don't know is an acceptable answer to this question, even if there wasn't, or even if there was an explanation. What do you think, Eric?
I absolutely agree, and I would just want to build upon that. And that is, so, Douglas, do you think atheists have, what do you think an atheist is, first off?
Someone who rejects the proposition that God exists.
Okay, perfect. What does that have to say about the instantiation of the universe or the world?
That means that if there is no thinking agent that created this world or supervising it, there's really no point to anything. Like, for instance, what is the point?
Whoa, hold on. Whoa. Okay. Hold on. We're branching off into a whole bunch of different things, and all of those things I would love to talk about, but we got to pick one. So let's stick with the who created the universe, because is there purpose is a wonderful conversation, but it is a long one to have, and you're welcome to call back for that one. So rejecting the God claim, right? That's what an atheist is. You nailed that perfectly. So the God claim, right? The claim that you're making is that your God poofed everything into existence, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Can I poof anything into existence?
No.
Can you poof anything into existence?
I cannot, no.
No. Okay. So you're saying that there's a being that you can't see, smell, taste, touch, or know, that poofed everything into existence. You can't prove it, but we got to believe you. And for some reason, we need to believe that more than saying, I don't know. I think you have a huge burden of proof there. You need to actually show us that, number one, that's possible, and then number two, that's the probable answer. But to say, what do you think created it, is shifting that burden, because it's trying to say, well, at least I have an answer. And saying at least I have an answer is not good enough, because I'd rather not know and be encouraged to explore than pretend to know and
If you
stop.
did, can I ask you a question? If you
Yeah,
did
go ahead.
explore and you found that it was God, would you accept it?
Well, yeah.
Okay. Well,
Now,
I think
if
we would accept it as truth, but we wouldn't necessarily. I
Worship.
can't speak for Eric, but I wouldn't worship God, because not the God of the Bible as described seems kind of monstrous to me. But that's again a separate conversation. I think
Yeah.
we would accept anything if there was evidence for it, right?
And you got to follow that evidence. So let's turn that back around. We had a caller, his name was Antangelo, who is not allowed to call Talk Heathen anymore, because he said that he could never, ever stop believing. And the only way to stop him from, the only way that he could be convinced otherwise is to bring him the bones of Christ. Everything else, he just assumed he was right on. And those weren't conversations worth having. The reason I bring it up is because let's turn that back on you. If you were to explore those supernatural God claims and find that there was a naturalistic explanation that better explained them, would you be willing to put down your God belief?
yes.
Yes. That's fantastic. So, are you exploring it? What have you done to investigate it? Because that sounds like the most important question you'd ever want to ask or have the answer to.
Well, I've been studying different books and watching shows like this one.
Cheers. Good. So as far as if somebody says, well, what created the universe? Can you see how that's kind of a non sequitur? It doesn't really get us anywhere. You know what I mean?
I understand.
Yeah.
I
Go ahead.
I just want to know, because
Yeah.
I don't know, because I see the world and how complex it is. I wonder if there really is a thinking being behind this.
We just need to make sure that we're not making assumptions when we don't have to. That's all.
Like I said originally, I don't know is a perfectly acceptable answer, right?
Mm-hmm. I've often said on the show that it is, I think, the most intellectually honest thing you can say, because it is difficult to say I don't know.
Right.
Okay, well, at least we can agree on that.
I think that's a pretty good place to end off, man. Thank you for calling in. And dude, if you want to talk about morality, if you want to talk about ethics and all of that kind of all those other subjects, call in again. We'd love to have them. We just want to make sure that we don't get it, buckshot and are unable to answer any of them.
Actually, I'm going to take you up on an offer. Someday I will call you back and talk about that.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you for calling, Douglas.
Okay. You're welcome. Welcome. Bye-bye.
That was a nice Christian caller.
It was.
Yeah.
It sounds like they are intellectually honest and looking for the facts and the truth, right?
Yeah. And what's funny is I have such a visceral reaction to something like, well, where do you think it came from? Because when I've engaged in that kind of conversation, it's always been hostile.
Yeah.
And so when he first started talking, my first response was my hackles kind of went up a little bit. And no.
Did not play out that way.
No, it didn't. I think it was pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a preferred caller you want to move on to?
Let's see. I'm not picky. We could take the one at the top if you want.
Sure. Let's talk to Karen in California. Karen, you're live with Eric and Owen. Hello. Hi. Do you have us on speakerphone?
No, I'm not on speakerphone.
Okay. Go ahead. What did you want to talk about?
I wanted to get a clearer difference between Christian nationalism and Christian fundamentalism.
Sure. Absolutely.
Can I give my take on this, and maybe Eric can kind of clarify? From my understanding, a Christian nationalist is somebody who believes that the government should be controlled by the Christian religion. It's somebody who wants to, control the educational system and basically have a Christian state. And fundamentalism, from my understanding, is the belief in the fundamentals of a book, the literal interpretation of the Bible.
I see.
So, as far as I know, like I said, Eric can correct me if I'm wrong here. Fundamentalism is basically the extreme literal interpretation of a book. Nationalism, Christian nationalism, is the belief that the government should be controlled by Christians.
It's just recently I've heard this phrase over and over, Christian nationalism, and I wasn't sure what it was.
Yeah,
absolutely. So there. I remember even as a Christian hearing passages about praying in private, right, and giving to Caesar that which is Caesar's. And yet there's this Christian nationalist kind of push. And so I actually pulled up while you were talking to Owen, ChristiansAgainstChristianNationalism.org, because not all Christians are Christian nationalists. And I'm just going to read from their statement on what a Christian nationalist is. Christian nationalism seeks to merge Christian and American identities, distorting both the Christian faith and America's constitutional democracy. Christian nationalism demands Christianity be privileged by the state and implies that to be a good American, one must be Christian. It often overlaps with and provides cover for white supremacy and racial subjugation. We reject this damaging political ideology and invite our Christian brothers and sisters to join us in opposing this threat to our faith and to our nation. So I hope that kind of helps separate that. So you can have people who are hardcore believers, right? You can have people who are handling snakes buck naked in the wilderness and still not necessarily think that they should legislate their beliefs. And so making sure that
Well, that explains the historical revisions that we're getting about our Constitution and the Founding Fathers and stuff like that. Okay, that explains a lot.
Good.
Yeah, I talk about this in a video that releases later today. There's this pastor named Johnny Enlow, and he's a QAnon supporter, and he's also part of something called Seven Mountains Dominionism. It's basically like in the 70s, evangelicalism was kind of created, right? And out of evangelicalism came this thing called dominionism. It's basically like a belief system. And dominionism at its core is the belief that the government should be controlled by evangelicals specifically, not just by Christians, but they want to, have people in the government to control things. There's soft dominionism and there's hard dominionism. Hard dominionism believes we should completely replace the Constitution of the U.S. with the Old Testament laws, basically. And and then it goes even deeper than that. Seven Mountains Dominionism is the belief that we should also, that the educational system should be controlled by Christianity, by evangelicals specifically. So there's a whole, a whole route to take with this.
Absolutely.
Wow.
No.
Well, I definitely have a better understanding of it now, and explains a lot of what I've been hearing recently.
Good. And I hope
it's a movement that's really growing, I guess.
Yes, it is.
It is, and I think it's been something that we as a society have swept under the rug for a very long time, and is now just seeing more light, and I think this is especially important given the context of the first call that we had today. Somebody saying, should we label all Christians a cult, right? I just read to you a definition from ChristiansAgainstChristianNationalism.com. And so therein we see these ideologically opposed groups of people who also call themselves Christians. And I think that, in combating that nationalist...
That Christians are calling out Christians, so that's really good, because for so long they've just not decided to call out their Christian brethren who are fringe, extreme, are not, Yeah, I'm really glad that there's some because it doesn't serve us, I don't think, to call them out as much as if it comes from other Christians.
Agreed.
Definitely. And I think that is an intersection where we should be meeting with them and working together. You know, every time we see those intersections of you know, where we want to see change, it's something that we as atheists,
separation, all that stuff. Yeah. Secular
it's something.
schooling.
Well, and even just volunteering. You know, we as atheists have a lot of work to do because there are plenty of cases of times where somebody who is an atheist walks into a soup kitchen, turns out it's a religious one, and they're not allowed to help. You know, and so we've got to combat that. We've got to combat the narrative that we are in some way this vile, you know, oppositional force, but that we can work together to create a better society.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That gives me more understanding. Hopefully it gives the public more understanding, because I know that we sorely need to understand this now.
Yeah, that was a great question.
Yeah.
No problem. Well, thank you,
Karen.
guys. You guys are great. I've listened to both of you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Karen. Take care.
Yeah, you take.
I like that, Karen.
Right?
Yeah.
Not all Karen. I really,
No.
yeah, that was really cool. I liked that.
All right. We have a regular who calls in, and I am happy to talk to them. Brandon in California. Brandon, you are live with Eric and Owen. Hey.
Hey, what's
Brandon?
going on? Thanks for accepting my call, guys.
Absolutely. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I'm actually calling because I'm kind of in need of help. For the last 6 to 8 months, I've been doing research on my faith. I've been following Christ for about 16 years. And for the last 6 to 8 months, I've been really discouraged and really kind of saddened by the lack of evidence. And I don't think Christianity has any sufficient evidence anymore. And
Cheers.
I was considering...
Welcome to the dark side.
Leadership. Oh, oh goodness.
Go ahead. So you're considering talking to your church leadership?
Yeah, I'm considering talking to them about, being honest. I'd rather not hide. I may not need to make a whole social media post necessarily, but I do want to be a man and tell my church leadership and just, say, that I don't think that this has sufficient evidence anymore. I love you guys, but I don't think that I can really continue this. And I just don't know what to do. It's hard. And so I decided that this is my first time calling.
Sure.
And, you guys being like this. Yeah.
I got you mixed up with another Brandon. I apologize. Brandon, so
okay.
I guess the first thing that I want to attack is it sounds like you have this idea that being a man means standing up and taking this approach. And first thing I want to do is dismantle that.
Agreed.
Okay.
Because there are so many people in their experiences. It's so individual. So I guess the first question is, Brandon, are you safe? If you came out and worst case scenario, you lost your community, your family, would you have a place to live? Would you be okay?
Yeah, but I think that I'll be fine. I just think my family just wouldn't like it.
That sounds like a really privileged position, and I'm glad that you have that. I wish more people had that. There are lots of ways of coming out, and a lot of people, after they go, hey, here's my conclusion, here's where I am, then they have to make the practical decision of, is it a wise decision for me to do this in my life? Maybe there are plenty of people who are students who say, hey, if I told my parents I was an atheist, they would not support me through college. They'd cut me off. I would be homeless. I would, all of these different things. People say, there are a lot of people who get jobs through their church and say, if I left the church, I would lose my job. Right. And so in those cases, I wouldn't consider taking the stand and losing your job the being a man thing. Right. I just would advocate for you to make sure that what you're doing is safe for you in your life. And so it sounds like you've got this privileged position of being able to do that. The next question is, it sounds like this is what you want to do. It sounds like you've already made up your mind.
Yeah, it's just hard because
Yeah,
I really do care for these people. I love for these people, and not only
absolutely.
that, and I know you guys, well, technically we all have the same position now, but I followed Christ for 16 years of my life. The Bible is something that meant dear to me. This is something that it's hard. This is not easy. I just wish God would help me out if He does, and I just feel like I'm not getting any help.
Well, I'll tell you this. Coming from a Jehovah's Witness background, generally speaking, there are a couple of ways to leave the religion. If you're trying to leave the religion and stay in contact with your family, then usually they do something called fading. And a little bit of a secret, so I guess I'm probably blowing people's secrets here, but you're supposed to have your publisher's card transferred to a different congregation, so that the elders in your original congregation are no longer responsible for you. It's the new congregation. Show up once to the new congregation, never go back. Don't say a word to anybody. Then they have trouble tracking you down. They don't know where to go or who to talk to, and you don't get disfellowshipped, and that means that you're allowed to speak to your family again. Or, I'm sorry, you're allowed to continue speaking to your family. Generally speaking, in these types of matters, my policy has always been, why rock the boat if there's risk involved? You can continue living your life in safety and in happiness without burning everything to the ground. So in your case, I would say, if you're in a position where you can, tell the pastor, I don't believe this anymore, and that's something you want to do, then do it. But don't hinge your self-esteem on doing it, because there is no reason to hinge your self-esteem on that, right?
And being accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just to tie in a little bit more on that, people, when you do it, it's helpful to recognize that a lot of people tie their ideas to their personal identity, and it's a very, very dangerous thing that we really, really hope in everything, in what we're doing to help separate those things, because you can change your ideas. That doesn't mean that you're a different person, right? And that means that you can get rid of bad ideas. And that's something that we want to encourage. And so if you were to phrase it in a here's where you're wrong way, then it could be seen as an attack. Not only that, but I don't know your history, but I know that I personally had a lot of preconceptions about atheists. And so if we were to say, hey, I'm an atheist, that can come with a lot of baggage. And that baggage could be, this person doesn't want to have a relationship with me. This person wants to sabotage my relationships with others. This person wants me to suffer. This person does not you know what I mean? And be wary of that. And so when you talk to them, turn it on yourself. Say, hey, there are reassurances that you can make. I want to talk to you about this, and I want you to know that I still love you and I'm still the same person, and moving in that way, because the less that they feel that they, are on the back foot, I think more often the better it goes.
Got you. Yeah, and I think that helps a lot. I guess because I am, even though I've been studying this for 6 to 8 months, and I've been, fairly understanding that, I haven't seen as much evidence as I would like to see. Even listening to William Lane Craig, I've been listening to Frank Turek. I try to go after the quote unquote the guys who know what they're talking about, or the heavy hitters, as much as I can in this. So I would like to believe this was something I would tell my leadership, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've kind of went at this with the best that I can, with intellectual honesty, the best I could. We may have our biases in some areas, but I am trying my best to listen to both sides. And the Bible says, if you seek me, you will find me. I'm like, I'm seeking, but yeah. So,
yeah. The Bible covers for a lot of dirt, though. You can also point to doubting Thomas. You can also, point to times when you were not supposed to test God. And so,
there's a verse in there for everything, right?
Yeah, no matter what your view is, you can find something in there that backs up what you already believe. But I would only reiterate what Owen said, and that is, don't die your self-esteem. That's good advice, man.
Got you. I'll definitely do that. And I'm gonna go it the best way I can. Like I said, this is my first time calling. I really appreciate you guys' advice on that. It means a lot.
Absolutely. Call us back. Let us know how it goes if you want to, if you feel comfortable with it. There are people in the live chat, and I think it's important that you're calling, because there are people in the live chat who are wondering, well, it sounds like Brandon's asking our permission, and that's weird. But Brandon, I've been in your shoes, man. And sometimes just hearing it from another person, I think you probably had your mind made up when you called, but getting that bit of affirmation, getting to hear it bounced back at you can help. And I hope it helped.
Yeah, because everyone around me is a Christian, so this is it. You guys are it.
Well, we're happy to have you, man. Why don't you join us in the Discord if you haven't already?
Oh, shoot. I'm not even online. I was actually just calling the Atheist Experience just to call someone at the office. I didn't know I was going to be on live, but I said that's it.
Wow. Brandon, I thought we had a connection. Fine.
It's funny.
Sorry.
No worries. Hey, take care, man. Thank you for calling in.
No problem. Anytime. Bye.
On a certain level, he said that there probably isn't much personal risk to him coming out. Mm-hmm. But the fact that everybody he knows is Christian is concerning to me. I mean, everybody he knows is friendly with him and loves him and all that stuff. But coming from Jehovah's Witnesses, I know better than anybody that the second they get a hint that you disagree with one specific view they hold, they flip on you, and you would have never expected it. It blindsides you. So I hope things turn out okay for him.
Agreed. Sorry, I cut that off before you got the chance to say that. But yeah.
Oh, it's good.
Agreed. All right. So we've got a good number of callers, but before we dive into the next call, I think it's time to thank our patrons. It's 2/3 of the way through the show already. So I am refreshing the page. And our top 5 patrons this week are Eric Tweet, Desert Heathen, Bethany P., Jay Friedman, and Ward Knipling. Thank you so much. And we actually got a suggestion as well. We should randomly shout out some other people too, because we have a lot of amazing supporters, and we appreciate all of you. If you like what we do and you want to support us, consider going to patreon.com/Talk Heathen to me. I realize that I don't know if I'm going to out somebody by saying their name, so I'm instead going to shout Neil, the 604 Atheist, who's a patron. Neil, thank you. We appreciate you, man. All right, let's move on. And I want to talk to Kevin in New York. I really do. I want Kevin to talk to Owen. Kevin, how's it going?
Hey, it's good to talk to you. Excuse me, I get nervous every time I call into the show, but
nothing to be nervous about. We're just a couple of D-bags sitting here.
Yep. You can say douchebags. We're douchebags.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
I'm a douchebag.
A couple of douchebags just sitting here chatting. So, yeah.
What's up?
Well, in the topic I called about how I believe that prophecy works as evidence for God. Well, this kind of works off of a previous conversation that I've had with you guys.
Okay.
And I'm calling back because I really did do more research.
Oh, good.
And the reason why, yes. Well, the reason why.
Kevin?
I think we lost him.
Yeah.
Oh, man. You're dropping out a bit. If it happens again, we might need to take you next week, but I really want to keep trying to talk to you. So could you say that again?
Well, the reason why I arrived, the way I arrived at where I'm at now is because as I was doing research, and I had talked to you guys before about apocryphal texts, and the origin of it, it was correct in how, well, you guys said it, and I found out that this was also the truth, that these books were written around maybe the third.
Kevin, hey, Kevin, you're roboting, buddy. Try calling in again next week. I'd love to talk to you. I really wish you could talk to Owen.
Okay.
But thank you for calling in. I hope you call in early next week. That way we have more time to talk to you. If you called midway through the show, we're not going to get the chance to have that conversation. Okay.
All right. I'll call again.
All right. Take care, man. We can speak to the subject a little bit, though.
I was having trouble making it out. Do you want to try to elaborate?
Yeah. So it really boils down to prophecy, and apocryphal texts and prophecies coming true being evidence for the existence of God. I don't know if you have any strong opinions about that.
Yeah. Obviously, prophecy is, we can see it all the way through the Bible. It's kind of vague in some cases. There's no way of verifying that it was actually true. And in fact, in the Bible, you can see, so the Jews had this specific prediction to determine who the Messiah was going to be. You'll see him riding in on an ass. He'll be born to a young woman, a marriageable young woman, and things like that. And in the New Testament, you can see them trying to change Jesus's story to fit that whole thing. Like, he was born in Bethlehem, but he was from Nazareth, and there was a census. But there's no evidence the census ever happened.
About 7 years later than the purported date. And then also they took the field trip to Egypt, like out of freaking nowhere, before they went back to Nazareth.
Like, the whole thing is just, it doesn't make any sense. And you can actually see the writers trying to modify their current situation to fit what the Old Testament said about what was supposed to happen. Like, these people had these prophecies in front of them. They knew what they were supposed to be expecting. So they set up a situation or found a situation that loosely fit it. And if it didn't fit it well enough, then they modified it even more. It's just ridiculous to me.
It absolutely is. But even if we were to be the most charitable and say that it was something that was sealed away and that it was an accurate prediction of the future, that does not mean that the other claims in the Bible are true, unfortunately. It just doesn't. If I were to, make a wild claim, pull something right out of my butt and it turns out to come true in 6 months, that doesn't mean that any other claim that I make is also true. Each claim needs to be evaluated on its own merit. And so that's something that I really hope to talk to that person in the future about is that while we're discussing these claims, I really want to know why they necessarily point back to the other God claims. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So hopefully you can do that. And hopefully he's still watching. In the meantime, let's talk to, I've been saying in the meantime a lot. Let's talk to Jim in Canada. We've been having good luck with Canadians. Jim, you're live with Eric and Owen. What would you like to talk about?
Oh, hey.
Hey.
I was, it's nice to talk to you guys. This is the first time I've called in, but I wanted to maybe jump forward a little bit. I'm not a historian myself, but I have been watching the impact of religion on a lot of my friends' kids. Myself, I consider myself an atheist, although I had somewhat of a religious upbringing. But I've watched it, including a couple of close family members who are religious in their child rearing, and I know that one of my I want to say too much, but one of my nephews is gay for sure. and he's been brought up in this super Christian, like a born again Christian type family.
Ooh, I was a born again Christian. Okay.
He's really struggling, and he's reached out to me, and we've talked a little bit. But what I just really wanted to sort of ask people to consider is when you're bringing kids up in a modern world with such heavily traditionalized roles in gender and in masculinity and femininity, and all of those things are revolving right in front of us, and it requires a more, I don't know, open mind especially with your kids, to allow them to develop. This is causing a really, really significant problems, like life or death situations.
Jim, are you saying that Bronze Age, people didn't have a perfect grasp of morality and ethics? I entirely agree. Because I entirely agree. When you take a text that's that ancient, there's no way you're going to be able to apply it to what we've got. I think you're going to be talking to two people who agree with you. Owen, what do you think?
I think, honestly, I feel like we're lucky that the Bible wasn't even worse than it was. Like, it's pretty bad, but considering like how old it is and what the culture was like back then, oh my God, dude, we do not want to base our morality off of something from that era, from that type of culture. That is seriously scary.
Yeah, and I see the harm that it's done to these, to my nephews who are young men now, and what they're struggling with because of it, and because the world doesn't align with what they've been taught. And it was kind of the same thing for me. And I had a pretty high moral standard about right and wrong and being truthful, but I was at a real disadvantage growing up because of that, because that didn't actually fall into line with the majority of what I was dealing with. And then when you start talking about a person's true character, if they're gay, that's not a choice that they're making, and their religion doesn't allow for it, and their parents have been making fun of homosexuals their whole life.
Yeah.
And I wish people, these religious people, would consider the impact of their commonplace dinner chatter about how they put down people who are different. Because if your kids are different,
so too,
and you don't recognize that your kids are different, and they're listening to you say that, that's fucked. Pardon me. That's terrible. And I would just want more people to consider that.
Jim, you're right. It's fucked. I think you put a good finger on it. But Owen, it looks like you want to say something. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's fine. I was gonna say I agree. It is fucked, and I think that in the U.S. at least, we have lived with generation upon generation upon generation of people who do that kind of shit. Like, we're just now coming to the point in society where gay people are receiving some level of acceptance. Like, up to this point, back in the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s, the 2000s, there was absolute, like, disgusting treatment of these people. And to some extent, it's still a huge problem. It's a problem we're still working on. But I think that we can see society moving forward in a good direction, and we can take solace in that fact. Like, I hope that we can see this move forward progressively as time goes on.
And you're contributing to it, Jim. You said that they're looking to you, and really that is what the hope is. That's what we want. Make sure that you're a safe place. Make sure that you're there to listen and to talk to them and be a resource for them. And it sounds like you're doing that perfectly.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks. I definitely want to, just try to just offer that the opposite, not the opposite, but you can be a moral, decent person without religion. I feel. And I like
Agreed.
that I can take credit for the good things I do, and that I can take responsibility for my mistakes and learn from them.
Good. Let's keep doing that. Let's keep spreading that and hoping that more people pick up on it, because that's how we're going to get to that better world.
Thanks for letting me share. I appreciate it. You guys have a great morning.
You too. Take care. All right. I know we're taking these callers rapid fire, but I'm having fun.
Me too. It's awesome. Super interesting conversations.
Right? And you never know what's coming up. That's the part that always gives me the butterflies, is you never know what's going to come next. So I am shooting through callers today, which means that if you call now, you'll probably still have a chance to talk to us. If you want to talk to us about what you believe and why, 512-991-9242, or go to tiny.cc/callth. It's right down there at the lower third. We'd love to talk to you. In the meantime, let's talk to Kell in Utah. Kell, you're live with Eric and Owen. What would you like to talk about?
Wow. Absolute pleasure. Just wanted to say thanks. Huge fan of both. Owen, you personally, your videos helped me get out of Mormonism. Really appreciate that. And Eric, your calls and things. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And Eric, your videos helped me really get into secular humanism and skepticism. So honestly, big thanks to both of you for a big impact on my life.
Oh, that just gives me the warm fuzzies. Yay. All right. How can we help you?
Well, yeah, I had a question for both of you. I, as mentioned, deconverted from Mormonism this year, and I have been really in the midst of setting healthy boundaries with my family. I've told them, they know I'm atheist, and it's been a very interesting experience. My parents are extremely devout, and as a Mormon, I would have considered them very progressive, but now that I'm an atheist, I think that it looks like they're kind of towing the line of being really, really orthodox, maybe kind of in reaction to me leaving and them kind of getting scared. The specific question I had is, I've had a couple of conversations with them, and in the most recent one with my mother specifically, she essentially told me outright that she does not care if there was adamant proof, and she's an attorney too, but she wouldn't care if there was adamant, overwhelming proof that the Mormon Church was a front for something as awful as it was just a complete shell for human trafficking or something terrible. She wouldn't want to know, and she would not change her lifestyle or her support of the church, even when presented with kind of just any type of evidence to the contrary. And it was the first time that I've ever heard her say anything other than, oh yeah, I want my views based in reality and truth. And I'm just literally saying, I don't care if it's not true. I don't want to hear it, and it's not comfortable for me. And so my question for you two is, what would you recommend for engaging in a relationship, having a healthy relationship with somebody who doesn't even want truth as the basis for the reality and consciously knows that?
Woof.
I can go if you want to give it some thought. Okay. I don't know how much of my channel you've seen. I don't know how much of my channel the audience in general has seen. So let me just kind of elaborate on my situation a little bit. My mom is a Jehovah's Witness. One of the last Jehovah's Witnesses in my family. Pretty much everybody is left at this point. But she has actively said pretty much, I know that this is a cult, and I still want to be in it. I still want to be a member of this. Whether it's a cult or not is irrelevant. How do you deal with something like that? At this point,
right,
I've come to maybe an agreement with her that we will only talk about it if she brings it up. If you want to maintain a relationship with them, you may have to come to an agreement like that with them. Only talk about it if they bring it up, and if they do, then the conversation is fair game. Now, if you're just trying to break through that barrier and try to get through to them to try to help them change their mind, then I would recommend trying some street epistemology, maybe just non-confrontationally, calmly, just ask super basic questions that kind of point them in the right direction, but don't challenge them directly, because if they get challenged directly, their guard's going to go up and the conversation's over. They're not listening to anything else you have to say. So that would be my recommendation. If you want to keep a relationship with them, let them guide how much you talk about it. If you want to try to deconvert them, which is going to be a challenge, try some non-confrontational street epistemology stuff.
Okay. Thanks. I appreciate that.
I think that it's also important to recognize, and I'm sure you do, so I may just be saying this for the benefit of the audience, that when you have someone who espouses a view like that, they're not just saying it because that's what they believe, as a religious concept. It's something that they're entrenched in. It's where they get their community. It's where they get their identity. And so when you talk about the church, you're talking about something that they see themselves inextricably a part of. And so even if the doctrine isn't right, that's where your friends are. That's where you get validation. That's where your community is. That's where you've invested and laid roots. And in all of those ways, when you have somebody respond like that, I would not even want to know. It could also be a want to protect those things that they get out of it. It's part of the reason why we as secular humanists want to try and encourage people to gather and create community and be there for each other and give people other ways to get that, because religion doesn't have a stranglehold on community. But often when I'm talking to people like that, that seems to be what they think.
Yeah, I think I've recognized a lot of that too, just in things that they've said in terms of, a lot of the value they get explicitly is from the community in their words. And it's really interesting because, so my mom, I mentioned she's an attorney. She does international humanitarian law, which isn't like giving food away necessarily. It's more like tackling war criminals and things like that. So, she's got this huge drive for social justice and like wanting to help people. And my dad is similar as well. But it's just so interesting seeing them, like when it comes to anything related to the Mormon church, that instantly gets suspended. And it's weird because I'll see them say like something that I would almost even recognize as like a church like pamphlet line, and then they'll say what they think, which is directly contradictory to that, and then they'll say immediately after, they'll repeat the first thing they said. That's like just kind of some programming line. It's just so
cognitive dissonance.
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but no, I think that the community is a big reason why they do kind of hang around.
And you know what the worst part of it is? You're probably not the person who's going to convince her. You're probably too close.
Not.
That might not be the case. And honestly, I would imagine that conversation you had with her is probably going to stick with her for a long time. But best of luck. It bites that we can't give you a magic bullet, just a perfect answer and a way to fix it. But at least know that you're not alone in it.
Yeah, and also, Christians like to portray the situation where like an atheist only needs 5 minutes to destroy people's faith. They're insidious. They get in there and, with all the flies landing on them in their lizard skin, they just walk in, say 3 words, subliminally controlling you, and suddenly you're not a Christian anymore. You got to stay away from them. Obviously, that's not how it works.
Well, Owen, you're making me sound a lot more badass than I actually am.
Right.
Well,
so it's a long process, obviously.
Yeah. Give yourself some credit. You're probably more badass than you give yourself
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said you're probably more badass than you give yourself credit. I'm glad you called in, man.
Well, thanks. Hey, yeah, and thanks both for your time, and I appreciate it. It's good to hear the opinions of a third party that's not currently or formerly Mormon, and yeah, appreciate it.
Appreciate you back. Take care.
Yep.
Just as long as people know, we again are just two assholes on the internet.
Right.
We're lay people. We're not professional therapists, and we always suggest that people who want and need that kind of help to talk to a therapist, because honestly, I think a therapist would be really, really beneficial at this point. I wish he was still on the line so I could say that. A therapist could actually listen to your personal situation and get to understand the dynamic between you and your mother, and maybe help you with an action plan or help you with methods of being able to move forward.
Exactly. And there are actually a lot of services online for this. Like there's, BetterHelp and Talkspace and like a billion others that you can go to, and there's a certain fee every month that you can pay, and you talk to this person through the phone. Super straightforward. I'm honestly of the opinion that basically every single person in the world has something that or some way in which they could benefit from a therapist. So talking to a therapist for pretty much everybody is probably a fine idea.
Absolutely. Our crew is wants to make sure that we also say seculartherapyproject.org. That is also a wonderful starting place. Go to seculartherapy.org, or you can call into the Recovering from Religion hotline. There's the Clergy Project. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Sorry, but just as a side note, in the background, our crew put in all caps, Secular Therapy Project. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to talk to Jason in Tennessee next?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Jason in Tennessee, you're live with Eric and Owen. What would you like to talk about?
Hey, good afternoon, guys.
Hello.
It's pretty. It's pretty cool to be able to talk to you again. I talked to Eric and V yesterday. It's really cool that you're on this week, Owen. I love your channel.
Glad to be here.
I wanted to kind of since Eric may still remember the conversation we had last week. I had a buddy. I'm a secular humanist. I was really trying to help my buddy out, and I've kind of washed my hands clean of that now, because I took your advice and I can't fix it. So there's really nothing I can do but just be available.
Yeah.
And,
do you want to bring Owen up to speed a little bit and kind of contextualize what you're saying?
My buddy has, obviously he has some kind of he's having hallucinations, and it's caused by the religion that he's kind of going to, and I just I can tell, you can see it, and I've done everything I can do to help, and there's nothing more I can do. But I also, I see the harm that sometimes religion can do to people if they get into that situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you get a lot of myths of people, being, what's the term? Exorcisms, being inhabited by a demon. These ideas that angels are talking to you, demons are talking to you when you're having these visual and auditory hallucinations. And so
very strange.
It is.
The human brain works that way.
And I got to tell you, man, you're on this side of it now. You recognize there's only so much that you can do, and it is absolutely okay to go, this sucks. It really sucks, Jason.
That's exactly how it is. I've got to wash my hands clean of it, and I've got to keep going and doing my thing. And I will say that watching Owen's channel does help me out, the way that the way that you evaluate things is, you know, I do watch a lot of ACA stuff, but I do see Telltale. I do watch Vice Rhino. I love that because it keeps me in a good community. And I think anybody that is probably watching now probably should expand to like you guys, like every one of you. Y'all definitely have helped years.
All right. Y'all heard Jason, go to Telltale's YouTube channel and hit subscribe.
Yes.
But Jason, there was more that you wanted to talk about. Oh, and did you want to?
Oh, no, it's okay. Was there more to, did you have another question or anything that you wanted to touch on, Jason?
It says in the notes that you wanted to.
Right now.
It says in the notes that you wanted to talk about addiction.
Well, I mean, I have my own personal issues, but I'm dealing with them, and I go to, I'm in AA. I do like everything that I can to deal with mine, and I've been obviously through that watching how Narcotics Anonymous is. That's a whole different slew of problems, you know, and.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew this. I'm guessing you probably did, but for the audience who may not know this, I went through addiction too, and I've been to NA meetings and stuff like that, which is basically Alcoholics Anonymous for drug use rather than alcohol use, right? And I actually do have a lot to say about, you know, the AA and NA programs, and it's not positive.
They're good at what they do. I mean, if you're looking for a fix, it's not going to work, but it does better than not doing anything.
I agree. It's better than not doing anything. That is true. Although they have shoehorned religion into, you know, Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous as much as possible. Like 3 of the steps are about God. Now, over time, they have tried to reform it and make it a little bit more secular friendly, but it's not based on science. The 12 steps are not based on science. It was not created by scientists or psychologists. It was created by a church, and it is a religious program first and foremost. Trying to reform that into an addiction program is a lost cause, in my opinion. There are secular rehab that I went through. I went through secular rehab, and it did fantastic for me. One problem I have with Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous is their ass backwards view on treatment. I don't know. I won't get into it too much, but that's my abridged version of my issues with it. But it does help people. It has helped people in the past. AA and NA has. I just want to see people get into secular programs rather than religious programs.
It's a great start. It really is. They do good work, but it's just not enough for like everybody. And obviously, like there's different types of addictions, and they don't separate those.
Right. I actually was addicted to heroin for a while. I ended up getting on Suboxone. I've talked about this on my channel before, but I got on Suboxone. I've been on Suboxone for a while now. And when I was a heroin addict, I was a train wreck. I didn't make any money, didn't have a job, didn't have a life at all. I was just a mess. And I started taking Suboxone, and I am now a tax-paying member of society, a contributing member of society. Suboxone, in my opinion, has saved my life. But one big issue with AA and NA is they won't take anybody who takes Suboxone because they have this thing against using any substances at all. Now, I get that. I get that mindset. I get that opinion, but it's not based in science. If Suboxone can help me live a normal life safely outside of addiction and help me free myself from that addiction, scientifically speaking, I don't see anything wrong with it. So it's my take.
Cheers.
I've never, I know people that have done that, and they they load the doses and they make it to where that you can kind of wean yourself off of that slowly. But I'm totally for that. I mean, it's a hard thing to maintain over time. It's not going to be cured in 1 week or day or 28 days or whatever.
Right. Another thing that I'm not a huge fan of with AA and NA is something that they picked up from religion. It's the idea that you are perpetually sick and you can't get better. They came up with the term recovering alcoholic or recovering addict, and they apply it to whoever the addict is for the rest of their lives. I'm not a recovering addict. I am a recovered addict. I haven't used drugs in 8 years or something. Say again.
They have convinced me that I'll be doing this for the rest of my life. And
you don't have to. I know people who have done this for 8 to 10 years, and it's been good for them that they do this for 8 to 10 years. That may be required. That may be good for you. If that's the case, then do it. But don't let this religious program convince you that you are sick and can't be made well, like religion tells people.
Some of the people I've met are great influences. They're really good people.
Yeah,
I can't
definitely.
throw that away.
I agree. There's community in it for sure.
Jason, thank you for calling in, man.
Kind of like
Owen, I'm glad you expanded on that.
Yeah.
I want to pick your brain more.
To me. Yeah, I actually went to school for substance abuse counseling. Like after getting clean, I went to college. It's a psychology degree for substance abuse counseling for 2 years. And so this issue is extremely important to me.
Well, do you have any specific resources that you would suggest for people?
You know what? I bet the Secular Therapy Project probably has information for recovering from addiction. I will tell you this, AA and NA have done a lot for a lot of people, but I would recommend secular programs instead, personally. It's just me.
I agree. They're great programs, but it's working only to a level to me. I need a little bit more.
You know what? Check out a secular one. I know that you went through NA or you went through AA, I guess. Why don't you try a secular one? A secular one may actually give you a new perspective and bring you further than you've gotten so far with AA.
That's good to hear that kind of optimistic thing, because I'm not giving up.
Good.
Just know there's only so much that you can do. But Jason, we've got one more caller that we want to get to. But thank you for calling in, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. It's been really good to talk to you guys.
Good.
Hope you have a good rest of the day.
You too. All right. I want to talk to, we have a caller from Israel. So I want to talk to, is it Sarel?
Yes, you pronounced it right the first time. I'm glad.
Sarel, hey! All right. You're talking to Eric and Owen. What do you want to talk about? Yeah.
Like I said, the question, are you an atheist, comes up a lot on your show, Matt's show, and lots of the other shows. And a lot of times the response is either yes or no. Right?
Yep.
You hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Maybe I got cut off there a second.
No, you're correct.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the question would be, are you theist or atheist?
So that's either, like, if you were to ask me, are you an atheist? And so my answer would have to be either yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I would say, and I spoke to some other people also, I mean, I was wondering, I wouldn't say that there could be a middle ground, but I was thinking, could there be a middle ground where my answer wouldn't be yes or no?
That is definitely something interesting that I thought about for a long time, and I think it's binary, man. It's so.
Let me ask you this, Eric, and maybe you can kind of clarify the position. I think if somebody says, "Are you an atheist or not?" Is that binary? Is the question, right? Ultimately, I think the question, when you boil it down, is, do you believe that there is a God? And the two answers you can have are, yes, I do believe there is a God, or not yes. Like, it's not yes or no necessarily. It's not a true or false type of situation. I think it's a true or not true situation. And there's a difference between not true and false, right?
Beautifully put.
Right.
Thank you.
That's very logical. And when I spoke with a friend of mine who's a historian who follows the teachings of Buddha, he said, well, yes, it could be yes and no, but like he brought the yin yang, where it's black on one side, white on one side, it's the two black and white dots in the middle, where there's always black and white on each on the other side. He also got into a lot deeper. I didn't fully understand him, but like I was taking your position where it's binary, it's either true or not true. And he said, no, you got to keep an open mind. There could be other possibilities. And I brought up logic. And he says, well, logic is the basis of reality, but then you have to still think beyond logic sometimes.
Like
how? What do you say about his point of view on it?
How do you think beyond logic? Can you expand on that? I get the impression that this person you were talking to was speaking in ways that were kind of confusing to you and me. And you didn't really completely, connect with what they were saying. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. He explained to me over and over and over again for like half an hour. I was like, "What? I still don't get it." Open mind, and he's got all these different terms.
Well, I think that's because often that kind of language is obfuscation, whether they understand that it's obfuscation or not. Instead of going, I understand the concept, you're replacing it with, wow, that's deep. And stopping the conversation there. But if you get to, wow, that's deep, that doesn't mean you learned anything. It means that you got snowed. You've got to go back. You've got to really listen and go through. And I think that that's something that happens not just in Buddhist practices, but a lot of New Agey woo type language is people trying to say nothing at all with as many words as possible. You get a lot of Deepak Chopra type crap.
Yeah.
And
maybe.
Ultimately, that doesn't mean that this person is intentionally trying to obfuscate. It may be that they take, wow, that's deep, as then it must be true. But I would advise against it.
I brought up the idea of, what?
Oh, I was just saying I would advise against that. Go ahead.
Okay, so I brought up the idea also of, how the question of are you atheist or not atheist, true, false, is not something, it's about something internal in your mind. You have to know. Like I said, you have to know either yes or no. It's not like it's something external. Is there a God? Yes, no, I don't know. Or, the many different translations and interpretations of God that there are out there. Yeah, like, it's like I say, there's as many gods as there are people in the world, and probably more. But the question of are you atheist it's internal of your own knowledge. So like I told him that there has to be a yes or no answer. He still wouldn't move. So I just don't feel like there's any way to get through to those types of thinkers.
Probably not.
Extreme out of the box thinkers.
Yeah, probably not.
Right?
I know Tim mentioned it and come up with it, but he's the one I first heard it from when he said, keep an open mind, but not so open that your brain falls out.
Yeah. That's a good saying.
Yeah. But it definitely is an interesting conversation. And in the future, I would advise against the 100% certainty thing, because I don't think that I have 100% certainty about pretty much anything. But we have degrees of certainty, and we do our best to understand things as much as we can. But, coming to 100% certainty on a thing is not the kind of universe that we can live in, unless we're talking about deductive,
exactly.
statements.
That's the whole point of this question, is that there's this 100% certainty of atheist or non-atheist. Like, I'm not 100% certain I'm atheist. Like, I sometimes have sway back towards theism or pantheism or whatever it may be. With atheism, I'm always skeptic.
Actually, I don't know if it goes that way. I think you could say I'm not 100% sure about the God claim, but the atheist position is simply the negation of the God claim. So it doesn't actually have, a competing hypothesis that you need to believe in.
Right.
Just that the God claim hasn't met its burden of evidence. Burden of proof.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I guess I would, if I were to bring up these points to him, it would be moot. So I don't know. I was hoping I'd maybe get some sort of like kicker to bring back to him or something.
Ask him if something deep means that it's true, because if it doesn't mean that it's true, then he should be able to put it into better language that you can understand. And if he can't do that, then he probably needs to study a little better, because if you are a good teacher, you should be able to, rephrase it in different ways such that the person can understand you. But if all you're doing is creating more and more obfuscation by making it sound deep but not have any, I think of it as empty calories. Why are you going to waste your time on intellectual junk food? Because it's just not getting anywhere. So
and like he never actually claimed that I'm not smart enough or anything like that. Kind of like what the Orthodox Jews and what Christians do sometimes when can't grasp their claims with it. But I kind of felt that way, though.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Anyway,
but
just want to get your opinion on it.
Absolutely. Calling in from Israel. We appreciate it. What time is it over there?
It's right now 10:40.
Okay. Well, then you didn't have to stay up too late. That's
actually,
good.
I'm really happy that I got to speak to you guys today, because I spoke with our Israeli version of yours and the Atheist Experience show. We have the Atheist line here in Hebrew. Started
That's awesome.
A year ago. Yeah,
that's awesome. So, I think I got an email from them a while back.
Hebrew is called. What?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give a shout out to them if possible.
Absolutely. How can people find them?
It's called the Hakav Ha'atheisti in Hebrew, or the Atheist Line, and it's on YouTube, Facebook, and everything. So if there's any Hebrew speakers out there, who want to hear the Hebrew version, it's out there.
That's awesome. Thank you for calling us, man.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you. Yeah, bye.
Alrighty, man. So, Owen, I want to make sure that we have time to go on to Discord to talk to people for a little bit. But before we do that, we've got a couple of other things we need to do. I really want to take the time and tell people, Telltale is your channel. It's your podcast. And it's worth subscribing to, you guys. There it is. There's the Patreon. There's Twitter. There's Etsy. There's the Teespring. Check out the Etsy shop. I
think it's pretty cool, personally. I don't know.
I do too. The work you do is awesome. Is there anything else you want to shout out or
Well,
plug?
I think that's pretty much it. On the Etsy store, it probably doesn't really apply to most people, what I sell there. It's just like, retro game stands and controller stands, stuff like that. And some modern game stands like Xbox game stands and stuff. But I do have dumpster fire candle holders, and I have like signs that'll keep Jehovah's Witnesses away, like warning, there are apostates on this premises, proceed at your own risk, that kind of thing. So I think those signs are kind of interesting. But anyway, yeah, that's my channel and that's my store.
Good. Owen, it has been a long time coming. And I'm so glad that you got to join us.
Me too.
You also got to meet our incredible crew, and I want to shout them out because they're amazing. Can we move up the crew cam? There you are. Hey, everybody.
Cat. You guys see the cat?
Yeah. Oh, we don't have our normal crew cat, but we have another crew kitty today, which we appreciate. Thank you. We could not do this show without you. Thank you so much. I know we say it all the time. The ACA is a nonprofit, but for some reason people don't gather that I'm a volunteer. I don't get paid. Our crew are volunteers. They don't get paid. We're doing this because we feel like it's a public service, and we're using the support to grow other channels, to help in our community and help abroad, to support other atheist and secular humanist organizations. And so I just thank you. Thank you for hanging in with us. Thank you for supporting us. And there's lots of ways that you can support us, including hitting that like button and subscribing if you haven't already. We are at 1,700 people watching live and 350 likes. Smash that like button. Come on, we're so close to 100,000 subscribers. We can get there. Owen, do you know how to throw up love rings? Have you seen the love rings?
I don't think so.
Kind of throwing you on the spot there. No?
No, I don't think so, no.
Okay, so back in the day, the Atheist Experience, when they were on public access, they had one effect, and it was these green circles, these green love rings. And so when we started Talk Heathen, we decided we were going to do that as a kind of an homage to the original show, the original Atheist Experience. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to throw up love rings. 3, 2, 1, forward. Yes. Yes. Okay. And then we've got our sign offs. So we put in a caveat because of COVID, whether you believe it or not, if you're putting yourselves out there in harm's way to keep us safe, and that includes working at hospitals all the way to stocking grocery shelves. Thank you. You're doing your job, and we're going to do ours by wearing a mask and making sure that we are being safe, limiting our exposure, social distancing. For those of you who don't believe, welcome. We had some really great calls today, and we're really glad that you got to join our community. And then at the end, we say to those of you who do believe, we don't hate you, we just think you're wrong. You want to join me on that one?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. For those of you who do believe, we don't hate you.
We don't hate you. We just think
you're wrong. See you next week.